What a sublime day. Tunji murmured as he drove his recently married spouse into the lift that would take them to the room they reserved for their special night in perhaps of the best inn around. They just left the corridor of their wedding party, which was around 30 minutes drive from the lodging. Adenike grinned back at her husband and yawned, "Goodness. I am so drained, I moved such a huge amount with those high heels like crazy." "Once more," she said and yawned. "Hello. Darling," her better half answered, "don't let me know that you are excessively drained to satisfy your commitment. We had an arrangement, recollect? We both consented to have a video this evening to commit this marriage into God's hands." "Yeah, I do recall," Adenike addressed sleepily. "How about we get to bed on time? We will awaken at precisely 2 a.m. for the request." "Okay then," her husband concurred. They got into their lodging, had a shower and later ate the jollof rice that Adenike's mom pressed for them for supper. Subsequently, they went kneeling down and petitioned God, saying thanks to him for the outcome of their wedding, and from there on nodded off. They had both made a deal to avoid engaging in sexual relations on their wedding night, yet rather chose to devote that evening to a progression of intense petitions committing the excursion of their marriage into God's hands. They really made great their arrangement. Adenike's alert awakened them at precisely 2 a.m. as prior planned. Adenike drove the tunes of commendation while Tunji drove the request. They supplicated till around 4:30 a.m., after which they went to the washroom, this time around together, to have a shower. The two of them felt modest seeing each other's bareness unexpectedly since they met. One thing prompted the other and they had intercourse that very morning. "What is this, Adenike?" Tunji questioned his lady of the hour. "I anticipated that you should bleed being your most memorable time," he kept attempting to smother his annoyance. I really figured I ought to as well," Adenike stammered, attempting to retaliate the tears that blurred her eyes. "Liar," her husband yelped at her. "How? For what reason are people like this? In the event that you had let me know you were not a virgin, I could in any case have proposed union with you at any rate, however, while lying. I disdain this sort of disposition, I disdain it," he hollered. "However, I didn't lie," Adenike cried. "God is my observer, I simply don't understand." "Quiet down. You indecent whore, ridiculous liar. I cherished and confided in you. Is this the way that you reimburse my honest love? Do I merit this selling out? Yet, honey, kindly accept me, I'm a virgin, I vow to God. Will you stay silent?" Tunji shouted out of frustration. "You're not being a virgin isn't the issue, I have yet the way that you misled me and you are as yet lying at present." "No," Adenike cried. It was 7 a.m. as of now. Tunji changed into a relaxed wear and stomped out of the room out of frustration. "Tunji, kindly pause, how about we figure this out, please?" Adenike was crushed. "God, why my honeymoon is transforming into a horrible out of nowhere. In any case, for what reason didn't I drain? I figured virgins in all actuality do bleed during their most memorable sex. What has happened to me?" She kept conversing with herself. "Gracious God. Show kindness, I would rather not lose my husband's trust. God, I just petitioned you today that you be the driver of my marriage, essence of God, if it's not too much trouble, mellow the core of my husband and assume command." She cried sharply on the bed, checking the bed sheet once more, wanting to see hints of blood that could re-establish her expectation, yet the sheet was basically as white as fleece. Adenike met Tunji during her 3rd year in the college. She was the sort of young lady that pretty much every person that interacted with won't ever need to give up. She is of a typical level and a lovely face, calm yet firm. However, she was a typical understudy, at this point one of the most regarded in her area of expertise in light of serious areas of strength for her standards. She adored and served God all through her college days. She never had an affection relationship since she purposed in her heart not to do as such until she moved on from the college. Her choice changed when she met Tunji. Tunji was then a 500-level structural designing understudy. They had met at a course held to pay tribute to the graduating understudies that very year. Tunji was so much inspired by Adenike the exact second he put his focus on her. He had never been seeing someone yet was truly drawn to her. They traded contact and began their kinship. However, they had no hidden obligations from the start, yet this step-by-step turned out to be so enamored with one another that the two of them turned into a thing nearby. Not long later, Tunji graduated and went for his public youth administration in one of the south-southern provinces of Nigeria. In any case, he stayed in contact with Adenike all through. The day he at last proposed union with her was the most joyful day of his life in light of the fact that Adenike promptly acknowledged to wed him. Theirs was a blessed romance. He was a virgin and he anticipated his wedding night with Adenike. A year after his proposition, Adenike finished her NYSC program and after a year, they had a lovely wedding, a blessing from heaven. Adenike paced through the lodging for certain minutes. She had a go at calling her better half's number, however it wasn't traversing. Where in the world might he at any point have gone to? She thought. What should be a happy vacation has unexpectedly gone to an episode of tears for her. She continued her crying once more. All of a sudden, an idea streaked through her brain. Might that at some point be? She asked herself. No, it can't, she went on in her viewpoints, shaking her head enthusiastically. She wasn't entirely certain of her viewpoints. She went after her telephone and dialed her mom's number. Mother. Kindly come over, my marriage is ablaze. She shouted into the telephone. Which marriage are you discussing, Adenike? Her mom asked in alert. Adenike finished the call before her mom could scrutinize her further. She leaped up, changed into a short outfit and left the room looking for her husband. Quickly she opened the entryway. She saw her better half, Tunji, pacing the hallway of the lodgings. He had been dilly-dallying around the passageway every one of these while, unsure about where to go. He began strolling towards the steps. Quickly he located his lady. My better half. Adenike called, running along. Kindly pause, she said in an uproarious murmur, not having any desire to upset the visitors in different rooms. Her better half continued to stroll down the steps towards the ground floor, not ready to begin a discussion with her. Adenike's mom continued to dial her number, however she wasn't getting. Tunji went to the inn eatery, Adenike followed. The two of them found a spot at a table. Tunji's face was clear, he looked past his better half and stuck his eyes on the T.V in the eatery, overlooking her presence as though she was a dead figure. After certain minutes, Adenike held her husband's hands and said quietly, I want to make sense of. Tunji grabbed his hands from her as though he had contacted a hot pot. So you have a clarification from the beginning. However you imagine as though you were shocked about the entire thing. What else will you make sense of? N. Tell me. Gracious Tunji, I was tranquilized and somebody assaulted me simultaneously. Obi. Tunji yelled on. Look here, woman, I won't ever succumb to such a double dealing. I will not be purchased by that. He yelled. Adenike saw her husband of 24 hours, she had never seen him this irate. Destroys began streaming her eyes once more. Tunji didn't appear as though he gave it a second thought, he felt sold out, cheated and hurt. Tunji, if it's not too much trouble, pay attention to me, Adenike got down on after certain minutes of amazing quietness. I never intended to sell out you, I have adored you since I met you, what might I have acquired from lying that will hurt you and obliterate our marriage? I have forever been a virgin, no man has at any point seen my exposure in all my years with the exception of you simply today. I have kept myself all through. Goodness truly. So by what other method could you at any point make sense of what occurred back there? Tunji snapped. Satisfied, Tunji, tune in. There is this thing that continued to streak through my brain since you left the room and I continue to contemplate whether it might have been the reason. However, I have never educated you. Tunji looked at her displeased, so you think this is the best chance to begin revealing your past? You deceived me into wedding you, Adenike. I won't ever excuse you for failing the trust one have in you. A couple of teardrops got away from his eyes. Adenike was the main lady he had adored in all his years. He asked why she deceived him. Adenike saw the tears, she felt so terrible, her heart was broken to see her husband cry, and the way that she was the reason made it excessively weighty for her to bear. Once more, Adenike talked. "I'm sorry, Tunji. I did not deceive you, however there was this thing that happened to me when I was a kid, close to 9 years or somewhere in the vicinity. I was excessively guileless to realize that it might have prompted me being this bold." "Truly?" Tunji responded, not paying attention. "Tunji, kindly trust me," Adenike proceeded, "I'm coming being sincere. I was excessively youthful to see then, at that point, yet I detected everything was not perfectly as at the time I was going through the experience. My family lived in a face-me-I-face-you compound around then. I needed to remain alone at home for certain weeks since I just completed my normal selection test and was anticipating entrance into junior auxiliary school. Our neighbor's child, Ode, was likewise in similar shoes with me, so the two of us were left at home after our folks would have gone to their different work environments. My mom was a cleaner at a bank a smidgen far away from home, while my father was a driver at a table water production line. Ade's mom was done living with her better half. She left him a few years back after a significant quarrel, taking Ade's more youthful kin with her. Ode was a generally excellent and dutiful kid, so the two of us got along. His own dad functioned as a security man at a close-by plastic assembling organization. We'll skip this part as abiding to YouTube policy not to publish any act of abuse on women or children. Tunji looked towards the bearing of the entryway of the lodging cafe. He opened his mouth in shock and sprang to his feet when he noticed the individual who recently entered. A tall, pretty woman in her late 20s strode into the cafe. She was such a wonderful figure to see that the people who were in the cafe couldn't resist the opportunity to gaze. She was wearing a savvy dark outfit with silver shoes and sack to coordinate. Her chocolate skin sparkled. She strode directly to where the couple were situated. Tunji, who was still on his feet, was quick to make some noise. "Why on earth are you here?" She grinned at him, uncovering an ideal arrangement of white teeth, then, at that point, grimaced very quickly. She applauded together threefold and answered, "He. Wetting my eyes off limits, see for inside this world." Adenike turned upward pointedly, more astonished about the woman's utilization of pidgin English than the interest of what her identity was. The woman looked excessively lovely than what she's regurgitating, Adenike thought, then made some noise. "Darling, who is she?" "Avoid this, Adenike," Tunji answered serenely. "Vanessa, I got out. Whatever would you say you are doing here?" Tunji requested. "In hen. I heard that you were getting hitched, however, I talk say no lie." I questioned it, Tunji, so I voyaged right down to affirm, and it is so. "So you think say you fit dump me like that?" "E off limits dey simple, oh my bobo. I'm not a garbage, Tunji. That thing you called wedding that was held yesterday, no, ye won't be that. No, now the genuine wedding go occur." "Among who and who?" Tunji intruded on her. "Me and you, obviously," Vanessa addressed, as yet smoldering with outrage. "Thus, I'm not the guilty party here, all things considered," Adenike thought to her, "yet who is this woman?" Tunji's voice intruded on her viewpoints. "Will you leave this moment or I will call the security?" Tunji yelled. "Call security for who?" Vanessa answered. "After you have utilized me, you want to dump me for this lady?" Adenike rose to her feet right away and tended to Vanessa. "Listen, young lady, I can't remain here and have you affront me and my husband, alright? Whatever unfolded between both of you was previously, so kindly leave this moment. What's more, who do you assume you are to be the appointed authority for this situation?" Vanessa yelled. "Great inquiry." Adenike answered unhesitatingly, "I'm his legitimately married spouse." She showed Vanessa her wedding band. "Will you both stop this franticness?" Tunji argued. "Goodness. Try not to be senseless," Vanessa answered, overlooking Tunji. "You need to settle down with this cheat, this liar." "Yeah. Since I wedded him for better, for more regrettable," Adenike addressed emphatically. "I can wager it with you, you can never partake in your marriage with him. He has a place with me alone," Vanessa underscored. "I reject it in Jesus' name. My marriage will be joyful," Adenike pronounced. "You are the one that will return to damnation where you should be, you little girl of Jezebel." "Poor," Vanessa handled a reverberating smack all over. You dey frenzy. You think I'm here to joke? Adenike shouted out in torment, new tears running down her cheeks. What is this goodness, God? Scarcely 24 hours in my marriage. She whimpered. The eatery laborers drew nearer to intercede. One of them immediately dialed the quantity of the security while the rest anticipated the response of the husband to be. Did you justly slap my lady? Tunji roared. Indeed I did, and I will rehash it, Vanessa countered, not fretted over the harm she only caused for the new couple. A great deal of things went through Tunji's psyche simultaneously. He shut his eyes tight in a bid to suppress the resentment that was hurrying throughout his being. He tossed two hands on his head and stepped his foot simultaneously in a forceful way. He opened his eyes instantly and went strongly to Vanessa. Presently you have done your most horrendously awful. Leave this moment and at absolutely no point ever return to my life in the future. I lament the day I met you, he thundered. Sure. Not so simple. Vanessa answered non-casually and sank into the seat close to her. She folded her legs, flinged a couple of strands of the plaits across her face to the rear of her head, not having a concerned outlook on what Tunji recently said. Adenike stood up, as yet clutching her cheek, declining to accept that what simply happened was not a fantasy. Gradually, she created some distance from the scene and strode towards the lift. She has no solidarity to climb the steps right now. An excessive number of things happened to her right immediately. The shock was a lot for her to bear. She felt unsteady, her internal strength bombed her. She wished she never got hitched in any case and pondered who put a revile on her big day. Tunji jumped after her as she moved away. She saw him coming from the side of her eyes. Tunji moved toward her and held her hand. I'm sorry Adenike, you can accuse me, okay? Would you say you are okay? He argued. Escape my sight, Adenike said in a delicate murmur, grabbing her hand from him. I have had enough, she answered, attempting to smother the tears gushing once more, yet she would, they be able to stream unreservedly. This time, Tunji was the person who felt so grieved. He felt as though a demo hammer had been utilized to break his heart to pieces. His lady doesn't actually merit this sort of embarrassment. Adenike left the ground floor through the lift. Tunji represented a few seconds, not made a choice about what to do first, whether to support his lady or manage the moron in the cafe. He went for the last choice. Turning strongly, he moved toward the cafe in rage. He expected to dispose of the garbage he carried into his existence with his own hands. Vanessa. He yelled at the unwilling figure before him. How have I merited this extraordinary underhandedness of yours? Is it a wrongdoing to be your companion in any case? Must you be the one I will wed? You should be from the pit of agony like my wife appropriately said, and I won't ever excuse you for this. Hang on, sweet, quiet your nerves. Has she gone to pack her things? Vanessa asked hopefully. You should be distraught. Tunji answered with such a lot of contempt in his voice. So that was your main goal after all? To disappoint wife order to leave? You lie. Clearly you are sent from Satan himself. I detest you. Vanessa stood and approached Tunji where he was standing. She murmured into his right ear in an enchanting way, darling, regardless of whether you won't wed me, I will not permit that woman to remain wedded to you as well. It's possibly me or no other person. What occurred between us that evening is what I will always remember, and I won't ever relinquish you as long as I breathe. Then you ought to fail to inhale, you devil. Tunji interfered with her furiously. Ha 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 ha. Vanessa snickered and added, your desire won't get through, my lord, simply wed me and you will find peace. All of a sudden, the security men entered. Tunji immediately coaxed to them to dispose of Vanessa. She battled with the men, yet in a jiffy, she was packaged out of the inn. I will be back, Tunji. She shouted over her shoulders, I guarantee. May I at no point ever focused on you in the future, he reviled softly. He turned gradually and headed towards the steps to confront the anger of his wife. Tunji got to the entryway of their lodging, yet similarly as he was going to thump on the entryway, he heard the voice of his better half from the inside. He detected she was talking with somebody on telephone. He postponed his thumping and held up at the way to listen in a little, in the event he could get to know the condition of her psyche right now through anything that she was examining with the individual at the opposite end. That should be her mom, he moaned. Adenike doesn't keep companions. His considerations were intruded on by Adenike's voice. However, you guaranteed me that he is a hero. I had Vanessa in the most natural-sounding way for you. You never gave me the feeling that things could at any point go crazy like this. I am so heartbroken at this moment. Satisfy, I really want your recommendation and encouraging statements. The facts confirm that no man can at any point be relied upon. You are the main companion I have now. Kindly come rapidly. Companion. Tunji was shocked. Adenike doesn't actually have a dear companion that I am aware of. He stressed his ears more to stand by listening to the discussion further. She was sobbing as she talked, making her words a piece indistinct. He was unable to hear the voice of the individual at the opposite stopping point in light of the fact that the telephone was not put on clearly speaker. A server entered the hallway where Tunji was standing. He immediately drew out his telephone and claimed to really take a look through it. The server mumbled her good tidings, while he answered unobtrusively, not having any desire to make his lady aware of his attendance at the entryway. Yet again quickly the server got out of sight. He drew nearer to the way to hear what his wife was talking about. Two things held him down. 1. The apprehension about overcoming his wife after all that occurred, and 2. The outcomes that would trail not too far behind. Will she truly leave me for good? Yet, stand by, she remained to guard me before Vanessa. She battled for her marriage. However, could she truly have been serious about that? Good gracious. Not after that prostitute slapped her, he thought. Once more, Adenike's voice came up. The individual on the opposite end probably been talking since, Tunji thought, in light of the fact that Adenike quit talking a few minutes back. You let me know he has a decent heart and that I will be protected with him. You said he isn't a miscreant. Why am I encountering this so early? She requested. Yeah. Who might that at some point be? Might it at any point be my father? Adenike had likely referred to my father as Tunji thought. Or then again perhaps Philip. Philip was Tunji's dearest companion back at school. She probably called Philip. He listened further. You vow to help me. If it's not too much trouble, come rapidly, I will anticipate you. Adenike finished up. At that, Tunji thumped on the entryway, accepting the discussion probably been finished. He would have rather not gambled permitting Adenike to find he had been at the entryway snooping. Who is it? Adenike asked from the inside. Her voice was blank, not of euphoria, neither of trouble nor outrage. Tunji's heart missed a little. It pounded so boisterously that one may be hearing the sound. It's me, honey, he answered in a shaking voice and opened the entryway. What he saw amazed him. His lady of the hour was kneeling down supplicating, with the heavenly book of scriptures held immovably to her chest. Her eyes were basically as red as blood. She had cried a ton. Tunji's presumptions were off base from the start. Adenike was really conversing with God. Dear viewers, let us get familiar with an illustration here. At the point when there are issues in your relationship or marriage, the time has come to converse with God and not to your parents or friends. Tunji moved discreetly to the bedside where Adenike stood. He sat on the edge of the bed, collapsed his arms across his chest and murmured profoundly. Somewhere inside him, he felt a touch of alleviation to know that at any rate, no outsider has caught wind of the current tempest in their marriage yet. He murmured once more, then, at that point, made a sound as if to speak boisterously. I realize you should have a comment. Adenike talked unexpectedly. Her voice surprised her husband. I realize you do, she repeated. You show priority, a clarification for this wreck, so shout out, I'm listening eagerly. Tunji's pulse rose once more. He turned out to be so apprehensive. He opened his mouth and shut it once more. He wasn't certain of how best to get going. He just didn't have any desire to disturb his lady of the hour. He such a lot of esteemed their relationship and could never relinquish her. Finally, he tracked down the fortitude to speak. Adenike, I want you to help me, I'm wrecked. He gave up. Indeed, I know, we both are in there, Adenike agreed. No. Tunji countered, I hauled you into this wreck, you are blameless of everything, kindly excuse me. Tunji, this isn't an ideal opportunity to request pardoning. I want to know how and when that woman came into your life to the degree of needing to obliterate our marriage, our relationship, what we both worked for such a long time. How? Adenike questioned in a shaking voice. She was truly frightened. She wished Tunji would tell her the plain truth. Adenike, if it's not too much trouble, please listen to me. I will come clean with you only. Alright, go on, I'm tuning in, Adenike answered hurriedly. Tunji proceeded. I met Vanessa during my childhood administration. She was likewise a cop part then, at that point. However, we had better places of essential tasks, PPA, yet we resided in a similar house. My own room was close to hers on a similar wing in a eye-to-eye loft. We became companions rapidly in light of the fact that we were the main cop individuals residing in the house. I turned out to be so attached to Vanessa since she was by all accounts the most considerate individual I have at any point met. She helped me out with stuffs like composing my illustration notes, we were the two educators, buying groceries for me on the lookout, getting water for my shower, etc. Most times, I wouldn't cook in light of the fact that each time Vanessa cooked, she arranged the dinner for the two of us. I thought she was simply being benevolent from the beginning, however she had her aims. I became so attached to her that my day wouldn't be finished on the off chance that I hadn't focused on her. However, we were simply companions, yet the kinship was getting further continuously. One evening, in the wake of cooking a delectable jollof rice, she brought my piece into my room. I was energized, not surprisingly, more so I was hungry. She brought hers along as well, that had been her typical custom. We both ate together, either in her room or mine. I was eating the scrumptious feast when my phone rang. You were the one that called. We talked that day, and toward the finish of our discussion, I said, I love you and I miss you, which obviously was my ordinary practice. After you finished the call, I saw Vanessa's look changed absolutely. Her grin disappeared, she wore this hopeless look all over. I scrutinized her difference in mindset, however she basically said everything seemed good. From that point forward, I began keeping away from Vanessa. I knew right away that her mindset changed in light of the fact that my fiancé called. It occurred to me then that I was behaving recklessly. I attempted to make a hold between us, yet it was quite difficult. The mix-up I made was that I was excessively reckless to have permitted such a personal connection to develop between us. However, I didn't actually discuss you at whatever point we were together, yet she realized I had a life partner. The viewpoint that made staying away from her so hard for me was that she had an extra key to my room. She gathered it from me on one specific day. I appreciate that her reasons being that I in some cases return late from work, so she would need to place my food in a hotter and drop it in my room in the event that she would be going out later at night. I chose to change the way into my room. I was so frantic about stopping our closeness. The very day I carried one more latch and key to supplant the one I was utilizing. I returned home that evening and met my room opened. I realized somebody was in there as of now. Obviously that should be Vanessa, I thought. I opened the entryway gradually and went into my room, where I observed the best shock in all my years. Men, be careful with the food carafe service. A word is enough for the savvy. This part of the story will be skipped for the sole protection of our viewers and abiding by YouTube policy. She ascended furiously from the bed and mumbled something I didn't hear plainly. I didn't want to understand what it was she said. All I needed was for her to get out. She got her garments, wore them, murmured and left. I fell on the bed and sobbed like a child. I was furious with myself. I lamented truly permitting her into my life in any case. I realized God was irritated with me as of now. The responsibility I felt was unbelievable. I had no strength to ask God for benevolence. Despite the fact that I didn't ultimately have intimacy with her, I got my erotic senses lighted, which was destructive to my profound life. The more I pondered you, the more my responsibility expanded. I realized you have saved yourself for God every one of these while, and all that I could do was to do same as well. To that end, I was angry when you didn't drain during our first berry course. I felt deceived. I got up the next morning and went to fill in to no one's surprise. I ensured I changed the lock to my room. I never realized Vanessa had another arrangement completely. She really needed to obliterate me. Dear viewers, be careful. Don't begin what you can't stop. The Holy Book says, might a man at any point convey fire in his bosom and not be burnt? I got to the school where I worked, just to see Vanessa talking with a portion of my partners, 2 women and 3 people. They were all cop individuals too in a similar school. I really got up late that very day, presumably due to the previous evening's experience, so they all got to school before me. Quickly one of them located me. They generally glanced toward me and looked as I drew closer. I thought about the thing Vanessa was doing or examining with them since that wasn't her PPA. I welcomed them with stress composed all around my face. I was as yet made a fuss over what happened the previous evening and all the more so about what Vanessa was doing. They generally took a gander at me disgustingly. One of the women even murmured at me. I was truly astounded by their responses. Part of the gang, the one I visited the previous evening, talked first. My guy, you truly disappoint me, goodness. Haha. On top all the s.u.u they consistently structure. Indeed, even me no fit do this, in spite of the way that I am a road kid. You fuck up gone, oh. You no excel by any means, hobber. Waiting. No big surprise you remained late at my place yesterday. I was asking why you paid me that visit, it was very unusual. He finished up. I saw Vanessa gesturing with assertion where she stood. I checked out at them with loathsomeness in my eyes. I knew quickly that Vanessa had caused a great deal of harm that I was unable to understand its degree yet, most likely an unsalvageable one as of now. One of the women murmured once more. She looked at me disgustingly and said, as a matter of fact, I used to think you were superior to the unruly ones, I never realized you were just a green snake. Abio, the other woman put in, come however damaging, may God convey we ladies from fate destroyers like you, she added. So be it, gracious. The other one answered with energy. I began perspiring notwithstanding the cool climate. I opened my mouth to talk, however shut it once more. I have truly gotten into a wreck. I was profoundly confounded, as yet thinking about what precisely Vanessa probably let them know that caused them to detest me to such an extent. What are you all referring to? I answered after I at last got comfortable with myself. Precisely what you did, obviously. How mischievous and cold-hearted you are, yet you guarantee to be a brought-back-to-life Christian. Vanessa countered pointedly with a horrible wrath in her voice. I went to her and inquired as to why she claimed to be a holy person when she was really a fiend from the start. She answered by crying fake tears, saying I was Satan in any case. The women began to reassure her. I put my 2 hands on my head, quietly grieving the fiasco that occurred for me. I felt frail in a flash. To put it plainly, Vanessa let them know that I have engaged in intercourse with her multiple times, that I never told her I had a life partner until she found as of late that I had a fiancé while I was deceiving her for 3 years. Lastly, that I furiously left her yesterday evening since she would not have intercourse with me. Every one of these and numerous different untruths, Vanessa told my associates. I attempted to clear up for them that it was Vanessa who really enticed me, however nobody accepted. They generally left for their workstations, consistently leaving just me, Vanessa, actually standing. We gazed at one another for certain seconds. Not a single one of us talked. I was getting extremely frustrated inside me. I was loaded up with lament as of now. Finally, she made so heart was beating, my head was throbbing, my legs went to jam the J. I love you, Tunji. I will effectively win you absolutely to my side. You have won my love as of now. I will live for none other with the exception of you. Acknowledge me and we will be cheerful. You call this affection? I answered furiously. This is franticness. You are annihilating my standing, yet you guarantee to adore me. For this thing you have done, regardless of whether you stay the main young lady in this world, I won't ever wed you, you are a demon. Gracious truly. Then, noise will see, I will show you what a lady can do. Keep in mind the force of a lady, she answered and left me. I stood spellbound to the spot. I was truly frightened. I lost the energy for work that day. I was unable to try and face my associates any longer. All I needed was to be separated from everyone else, alone with my God. I realized I had committed errors. As of now, I was excessively thoughtless. I got snatched up by her phony cordiality. I have never gone over such a level of urgency in any woman in all my years. I realized I needed to look for the solace of my room that exact second. I headed towards the school door, and home I went. I neither saw nor heard anybody as far as possible home, despite the fact that I strolled through the market. I felt alone in the entire world. All I knew was that I went into my room and sat on the bed. I ruminated over the new development. I lamented the way that I didn't tell my associate, the one I visited the earlier night, about my experience with Vanessa. If by some stroke of good luck I did, I would have an observer. I bowed close to my bed and cried to God for atonement. My tears streamed unreservedly. The most incredibly difficult part of the entire matter was that I have forever been the one teaching Jesus to these associates of mine. Very excruciating, so disgraceful. My cell phone rang abruptly, interfering with my viewpoints. I shuddered when I saw the guest. It was the facilitator of the Christian Couples Partnership. I would not leave my room with the exception of when I expected to wash or utilize the latrine. I saw no point in going to work. Brother Tunji, your consideration is required at the Christian Couples cabin tonight, please. We want to explain some issues. Jesus. I murmured. I wanted to call her right away. No one really knows. Vanessa had gone to the organizer's PPA to report me to him. She let him know similar untruths. I really went to the couple's cabin to see the organizer that very evening. He was actually a profoundly developed sibling. After he had let me know all that Vanessa said, he asked me what I needed to say concerning it. I described everything to him from the outset as far as possible. He tuned in with careful focus. After I stopped talking, he addressed me in clear words that re-established my expectation. I will always remember him. He said, Brother Tunji, while Copper Vanessa was talking, I detected it in my soul that something was off base someplace. I realized you probably committed a few errors, and I think at this point, you have taken in your examples. However, I supplicate the Lord will fight for you. I will reach out to you once I'm ready to talk with Copper Vanessa. I said thanks to him and dawdled home. I drooped on my bed and cried, Lord, if it's not too much trouble, justify me. I chose to live on a 3-day dry fasting. My significant petitioning God focuses were that of apology and that the Master ought to justify me. I didn't see Vanessa all through the 3 days I spent at home. However, I had one of the neighbors let somebody know that she ventured out to her old neighborhood. A noisy thump on my entryway on the 3rd day of my fasting awakened me from rest. It was in the early evening. I recently got done with supplicating before I walks off. I attempted to get off my bed. I was frail as of now. Hesitantly, I strolled to the entryway after I perceived the voice of one of my associates in the midst of different voices. I opened the entryway. I was amazed and simultaneously frightened to see the very set of individuals that Vanessa had hoodwinked before. My heart scattered a thump. I verified whether Vanessa was among them, yet she wasn't. I just saw a young lady whose face wasn't exactly natural to me. However, she had a hitting similarity with Vanessa. Next to her stood a young lady of around 3 years old. Call upon me in the difficult situation and I will answer you. God is our current assistance in period of scarcity. Ever unwavering, ever certain. Still in my flabbergasted state, I welcomed them into my room. However, it was a little room. It actually figured out how to oblige my startling guest. Some sat on my sleeping pad, somebody sat on the seat, while the rest figured out how to rest on my understanding table. I remained in the room, my sluggishness neglected, anxious to know their main goal. One of the corp individuals presented the woman with a little girl as Sarah and the young lady, Stella. I welcomed them, my psyche actually disrupted about the motivation behind their visit. The way that Sarah looked like Vanessa, such a lot of resemblance, disturbed me the more. One of them started to make sense of the reason for their visit. Sarah here came to our PPA this evening. She came searching for Vanessa. She wasn't certain of where Vanessa worked, so she came straightforwardly to our school since it was the closest to the engine park where she landed. with the conviction that regardless of whether she wasn't there, other COP individuals ought to have the option to know her. In this way, we propose to carry her to Vanessa's loft since we as a whole previously wanted to beware of you today to know why you didn't come to work. Your line has been turned off as well. I see. I addressed sleepily, hailing a murmur of help. Sarah then tended to us, thanks again coppers, God favor you. I'm Vanessa's senior sister. Her telephone number hasn't been getting passed for quite a while now. The last time I talked with her was 2 months after she was posted here. It's 5 weeks to your passing out now, yet I was unable to break through to her till now. However, she sent instant messages with one peculiar number now and again to guarantee us at home that she is fine, yet at whatever point we attempt the line, it was constantly turned off. So I chose to bring the aggravation to make a trip down to see her today, and in particular, her little girl here, Stella, wouldn't allow me to rest. She needed to see her mom, she cried all through yesterday. Girl. Father Lord. Where did that come from? Goodness. That is bizarre, she never discussed any little girl, I thought. I was staggered where I stood paying attention to Sarah. The other COP individuals traded fast looks. They were similarly shocked as well, however we as a whole immediately cooperated and guaranteed her that her sister is protected. I likewise added the way that in spite of the fact that I didn't see her for the beyond 2 days, I had a neighbor let somebody know that she headed out to her old neighborhood. Headed out to her old neighborhood? Sarah asked, astounded. In any case, she isn't as yet home, she added, dread written in her voice. I quieted her down and gave her another telephone number through which she could arrive at Vanessa. She went after her telephone and dialed the number right away, yet she didn't get. Subsequent to attempting a few times, the line was subsequently supposed to be turned off. For what reason is Vanessa acting like a distraught canine? Sarah yelled out of resentment. She said thanks to us and asked to withdraw in light of the fact that she would have rather not returned to their town late in the evening. The beautiful girl at Sarah's material and inquired, "Where's mommy?" "Don't stress, darling, she will meet us at home," Sarah answered. In any case, the young lady wasn't persuaded, however they needed to leave. "Say bye to uncles and aunts," Sarah taught her. "Bye," little Stella waved and we as a whole answered. However, I felt for her. There was an ideal quietness after they left. One could hear a pin drop. Finally, one of the women spoke. "Hee," she shouted, applauding all the while. She proceeded, "See me see wonder, virgin day conceived Peking. I thought Vanessa said you were the one that ravished her Tunji." I shrugged my shoulders and answered, "That is on the grounds that you individuals decided to trust her. I attempted to account for myself that very day, yet you were not prepared to pay attention to me," she lied all through. I cleared up the first adaptation of the story for them in subtleties, how we got so particularly close as companions, and how she later attempted to draw me into engaging in sexual relations with her, yet she fizzled. To put it plainly, reality at last emerged and I was legitimate. They were all truly upset for hopping into and in any case. It would be ideal for we to have known, how should a woman be so striking to the degree of proclaiming the time she had committed fetus removal, in the general population so far as that is concerned. We ought to have been dubious, yet we were purchased by her untruth, presumably as a result of the fake tears she was shedding. One of the women answered thoughtfully. "In any case, I will advise that you stay away with respect to her and be more cautious in future. She is excessively risky and frantic. Just God knows where she is currently, yet she let individuals know that she was heading out to her old neighborhood. She should be a Ron's young lady. Part of the gang answered and added, "Incidentally, for what reason didn't you come to work every one of these while?" All things considered, I chose to remain back at home. I was truly stunned with every one of the falsehoods she told that I needed to go into a 3-day fasting for God to come to my guide, and as may be obvious, he did. They generally chorused, gesturing their heads, "God heard your request, all things considered. All magnificence to God. He really answers petitions. He is faithful." I saw them off and returned to my room with a re-established type of energy. I felt an extremely extraordinary satisfaction inside me, maybe a major weight was taken off my shoulders. I burst into melodies of applause. I commended God till 6 p.m., then, at that point, as quickly as possible, I called the couple's partnership facilitator and enlightened him concerning the experience I had and how God battled for me. He commended God with me and encouraged me to move into the Christian couple's hotel till we at long last drop. I took to his recommendation right away. I moved my effects the next day. I was unable to stand to take any risks. It could be more secure for me to remain there. Who knows the technique Vanessa might need to utilize again. I saw less of Vanessa from that point forward. She came to my PPA 2 times, attempting to acquire some compassion from my associates, however they generally scorned her. Not even one of us offered her consideration, so she gave up. At the hotel, Tunji looked at Adenike straight without flinching and said, "Accept me please Adenike. I never put my focus on her since we finished up our childhood administration until earlier today that she showed up at the eatery. I don't have a thought of how she got to be aware of our wedding or the setting of our special first night. I am sorry to the point that I didn't let you know when every one of these occurred. That was the best slip-up I made. I thought Vanessa was gone always. I at absolutely no point ever realized she would re-emerge in my life in the future. The absolute most agonizing part is that she continued to say I utilized and unloaded her. I never engaged in sexual relations with her. I was a virgin until today, kindly trust me." Adenike shook her head where she was situated. She expressed complete silence, however she was persuaded that everything her husband said to her was the truth. Finally, she held her husband's hands and answered, "We as a whole commit errors. I made mine too by not letting you know what I went through during my experience growing up. Not admitting a few things about our past to one another may have grave results." "Excuse me please," Tunji argued, "obviously I have pardoned you honey. I'm certain God driven us to one another. I can't lose you under any circumstance. I'm sorry as well." Adenike answered. They embraced each other for quite a while, happy to be brought together once more. There was a loud knock on the door. The couple were astounded. Who might that at some point be? Adenike murmured. The entryway opened. It was Adenike's mom. She was amazed to see the couple holding each other intently. "What sort of game is this Adenike? I thought you said your marriage was ablaze. You almost gave me a hypertension." Adenike's mom questioned irately. "I'm sorry mom, the fire had been extinguished." "Greatness to God." "We are sorry mom, it was a slight misconception," Tunji put in. "Goodness truly. Do you have any idea about how stressed I and sort of misconception was that only a couple of hours after both of you were consolidated in heavenly marriage? You offspring of these days, I don't appear to comprehend." "It's okay mom," Adenike cut in. Satan just pursued a conflict yet he had been crushed. "Glory be." Tunji answered, "We are triumphant." "It's okay then," Adenike's mom answered, "I will take my leave now. I'm happy everything is fine. May the peace of the Lord be with you. Your marriage will be all around as strong as the stone, relentless, unshakable in Jesus' name." "So be it." The couple chorused. "Presently mom, you should pardon us please, we really want to partake in our special night," Adenike said, holding her husband by the waist. "Indeed mommy," Tunji agreed. Adenike's mom pretended an irate look and murmured, "Unserious spirits, after you hauled me to your special night, presently I'm the undesirable guest right?" They generally giggled as Adenike's mom advanced toward the entryway while the couple followed near see her off. Coming back to the room after Adenike's mother left, Tunji deeply took her into his arms and gave her a kiss on her cheek. "Presently, we will finish our incomplete business." Satan had been humiliated. "Yeah," Adenike answered joyfully. "Glory to Jesus." The couple moved to Abuja a month after their wedding. They conceived and have birth to 2 beautiful girls, Sharon and Samantha. They neither saw nor knew about Vanessa any longer. The Lord defeated the enemies. Adenike and Tunji enjoyed harmony in their marriage since they permitted Jesus to start to be the leader in their lives and home. Dear woman, would you say you are permitting Jesus to start lead in your relationship or your home? Adenike was a prayerful lady, Satan escaped for her. The both of their marriage would have destroyed since the absolute first day of their wedding trip. However, Jesus said no. Permit Jesus to assume responsibility for the issues of your life. With Jesus in the boat, you can grin at the tempest. This story is dedicated to all single family of eligible age. May your marriage be beautiful and blissful. Amen.